Vincent Sterling stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of his Manhattan penthouse, watching the city lights twinkle below like scattered diamonds. At 32, he had everything money could buy, yet felt emptier than ever. His tech company, Sterling Innovations, made him one of the youngest billionaires in America, but success had come with a price he never expected to pay. "Another disaster, sir?" James, his trusted butler, asked as he entered the living room, carrying a silver tray with whiskey. Vincent accepted the glass and took a slow sip. 3 hours, James. 3 hours of listening to Victoria talk about herself, her Instagram followers, and how my helicopter would look perfect in her next post. She didn't ask me a single question about my day, my work, or anything that wasn't directly related to her benefit. James had worked for the Sterling family for 20 years. First for Vincent's father, and now for him. He had watched Vincent grow from a curious boy into a brilliant but increasingly cynical man. "Perhaps Miss Hamilton isn't the right match for you?" "Sir, none of them are the right match," Vincent said, frustration clear in his voice. "Do you know what Victoria said when I mentioned my donation to the Children's Hospital? She asked if there would be a photo opportunity and whether she should wear her new Chanel dress." The older man nodded sympathetically. Vincent had been through this pattern too many times. Beautiful women who saw dollar signs instead of the man behind the fortune. Women who laughed at his jokes, not because they were funny, but because each laugh might lead to an expensive gift. "Maybe I should just accept that this is my life," Vincent continued. "Surrounded by people who care more about my bank account than my heart. Sir, if I may be bold, perhaps the problem isn't finding the right woman. Perhaps it's learning to see the right woman when she's already in front of you." Vincent looked at James curiously. Before he could ask what he meant, the sound of humming drifted from the kitchen. It was off-key but cheerful, accompanied by the gentle clatter of dishes being cleaned. "Chloe is still here?" Vincent asked. "Miss Martinez always stays late on Wednesdays to prepare for your business dinners this week. She takes great pride in ensuring everything is perfect for your guests." Chloe Martinez had been Vincent's house manager for 8 months. Unlike the parade of assistants and staff who had come before her, Chloe never asked for anything beyond her modest salary. She never hinted about expensive gifts or tried to photograph herself in his expensive cars. She simply did her job with a smile and treated him like a normal person. "James, I have an idea. It might be crazy, but I need to know who really cares about me versus my money." The butler raised an eyebrow. In his experience, Vincent's ideas ranged from brilliant to potentially disastrous. "What did you have in mind, sir?" "I'm going to give 4 women in my life unlimited credit cards for 3 days. No rules, no limits, just freedom to spend however they choose. Then I'll see what their choices reveal about their character." "And the 4 women would be?" Vincent began pacing, his mind already forming the plan. "Victoria, obviously. She'll probably max out the card in the first hour. Rebecca, my business assistant. She's smart and strategic about everything. Natasha, the event planner I've been seeing casually. She's sophisticated and knows all the right people. And the 4th?" Vincent paused, looking toward the kitchen where the humming continued. "Chloe." James smiled slightly. "Interesting choice, sir. She's the only one who's never asked me for anything. I'm curious to see what she'd do with unlimited resources the next morning." Vincent sat in his home office with 4 identical black envelopes spread across his mahogany desk. Each contained a platinum credit card with no spending limit. James stood nearby, still looking skeptical about the entire plan. "Are you certain about this experiment, sir? It seems rather elaborate for something that could be resolved with simple observation and conversation. Trust me, James. Money reveals true character faster than anything else. When people think they have unlimited access to wealth, their real priorities surface." The first visitor was Victoria Hamilton. She swept into the penthouse like she was walking a red carpet, her designer heels clicking across the marble floor. Everything about her was calculated perfection. From her professionally styled blonde hair to her carefully chosen outfit that probably cost more than most people made in a month. "Vincent, darling," she said, air-kissing his cheeks, "you said you had something special for me? I have a spa appointment in an hour, so make it quick." Vincent handed her the black envelope, a gift. Use it however you'd like for the next 3 days. Victoria opened it, saw the credit card, and her eyes literally sparkled. Unlimited, really? Oh, Vincent, you're too generous. I already know exactly what I'm going to do with this. There's a new collection at Bergdorf Goodman, and I've been dying to update my wardrobe for the summer social season. She kissed his cheek, leaving a lipstick mark, and was gone before Vincent could say anything else. Rebecca Chen arrived an hour later, professional as always with her tablet and perfectly organized briefcase. She had been Vincent's business assistant for 3 years and was one of the few people he truly trusted with important matters. Vincent, you mentioned you had something to discuss that wasn't business-related. Rebecca sat across from him, curious but maintaining her usual composed demeanor. I wanted to give you something. He handed her the second envelope. Consider it a bonus for all your hard work. Rebecca opened it carefully and examined the card. This is very generous, but I have to ask, what's the catch? You don't usually give gifts without a strategic reason, Vincent smiled. Rebecca's analytical mind was exactly why he valued her so much. No catch. Just use it however you think best over the next 3 days. I'll use it wisely, she said, slipping the card into her wallet. Thank you for trusting me with this. Natasha Winters arrived in the afternoon, elegant and poised as always. She was a successful event planner who moved in New York's highest social circles. And Vincent had taken her to several charity galas and business events. Vincent, how lovely to see you, she said, accepting a glass of wine from James. I hope this isn't about the Morrison charity event next month. I promise everything is under control. Actually, it's something personal. Vincent handed her the third envelope. A small token of appreciation for your friendship. Natasha opened it with practiced grace. But her composure cracked slightly when she saw the card. My goodness, Vincent. This is quite unexpected. And quite generous. Use it however makes you happy over the next 3 days. I can think of several ways to put this to good use, she said with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Thank you. As evening approached, Vincent realized he felt nervous about giving Chloe the final card. She was different from the others, and he wasn't sure how she would react. Chloe emerged from the kitchen, as she always did at the end of her day, wiping her hands on a dish towel. She wore simple jeans and a blue sweater, her dark hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. There was something refreshing about her lack of pretense. Everything is ready for your dinner meeting tomorrow night. Mr. Sterling, I prepared your favorite salmon dish, and it's in the refrigerator with heating instructions. Chloe, before you go, I have something for you. Vincent held out the final envelope, suddenly feeling more nervous than he had during any business negotiation. She looked at the envelope suspiciously. It's not my birthday, and I didn't do anything special lately. What's the occasion? Just open it. Chloe opened the envelope carefully and pulled out the credit card. She stared at it for a long moment, then looked up at Vincent with confusion. I don't understand. What is this for? It's a gift. Use it however you'd like for the next 3 days. Mr. Sterling, I can't accept this. This is too much. Way too much. Vincent had expected this reaction. Chloe, you work harder than anyone I know. You never ask for anything beyond your salary. Just take it and enjoy yourself for once. She held the card like it might bite her. But what if I accidentally spend too much? What if there's a limit and I don't know it? What if I break it somehow? Vincent couldn't help but smile at her genuine concern. There's no limit, and you can't break it. Just use it for whatever would make you happy. Chloe looked at the card again, then at Vincent. Are you sure? Because I have a feeling my idea of what to do with unlimited money might be very different from what you're expecting. That's exactly what I'm counting on, Vincent said, meaning it more than she could know. After Chloe left, Vincent poured himself another whiskey and settled into his chair. James appeared silently, as he always did when Vincent needed to think. The experiment has begun, sir. Yes. And now we wait to see who these women really are when they think nobody is watching. And what do you hope to discover? Vincent stared out at the city lights again. I hope to discover that there's at least one person in my life who sees something in me worth more than money. Someone who would choose kindness over luxury, someone who would think of others before herself. And if Miss Martinez turns out to be just like the others? Vincent considered this possibility, and it made his chest tight with an emotion he couldn't quite name. Then I guess I'll know that genuine love might not exist in my world after all. The first 24 hours would tell him everything he needed to know about the 4 women in his life. Vincent just hoped he was ready for whatever truths those hours would reveal. The first day of Vincent's experiment began with his phone buzzing at 7 in the morning. James entered the bedroom carrying coffee and a tablet displaying various news alerts. "Sir, it appears Miss Hamilton has wasted no time putting her card to use." Vincent sat up and took the tablet. Victoria's Instagram account showed a series of posts from the previous evening. She had gone straight from his penthouse to the most expensive shopping district in Manhattan. The photos showed her at Bergdorf Goodman, Tiffany & Co., and several high-end boutiques. Each image carefully staged to show off her purchases. $15,000 in 3 hours, Vincent read from the spending alerts. And she's already tagged me in 6 posts, calling me the most generous man in New York. Quite the publicity strategy, James observed dryly. Vincent scrolled through the comments under Victoria's posts. Hundreds of her followers were praising her expensive taste and asking about her relationship with the mysterious billionaire. She had turned his gift into a social media campaign about her own glamorous lifestyle. Any word from the others? Miss Chen made a single purchase yesterday evening. Something called a professional development seminar. $2,000. Miss Winters hasn't used her card yet, though she did make several phone calls to event venues. And Miss Martinez? What about Chloe? James consulted his notes. She used the card once yesterday. $47 at a grocery store in her neighborhood. Vincent paused. $47? Are you sure that's right? Quite sure, sir. Transaction was at Martinez Family Market on the Lower East Side. This was not what Vincent had expected. He had given Chloe unlimited spending power, and she had bought groceries. Either she didn't understand the gift, or she was even more different from the other women than he had realized. Around noon, Rebecca arrived for their weekly business meeting. She seemed more energetic than usual. Carrying a stack of business magazines and printouts, "Vincent, I wanted to thank you again for yesterday's gift. I've put together a presentation about how I plan to use it." Vincent almost laughed. Only Rebecca would create a PowerPoint presentation for spending someone else's money. "You've made a plan, of course?" "I've identified 3 strategic investments that could significantly improve my professional capabilities, which will ultimately benefit Sterling Innovations as well." Rebecca opened her tablet and began her presentation. She had researched an advanced MBA program at Columbia, a professional networking organization for female executives, and a financial planning certification course. The total investment would be approximately $38,000 over the next year. "I've calculated the return on investment based on potential salary increases in networking opportunities." Vincent watched her present with the same intensity she brought to business proposals. Rebecca had turned his gift into a career advancement strategy. It was smart, logical, and completely focused on long-term gains. "What about something just for fun?" Vincent asked. "A vacation, or something you've always wanted but couldn't afford?" Rebecca looked puzzled. "That wouldn't be a wise use of such a generous gift. I want to show you that I can be trusted with resources and make decisions that benefit both of us." Later that afternoon, Natasha called to invite Vincent to lunch. They met at an upscale restaurant where she was clearly known and well regarded by the staff. "Vincent, darling, I've been thinking about your generous gift," she said over champagne. "I have the most wonderful idea for how to use it. I'm listening. There's a charity auction next month for the Metropolitan Children's Foundation. I could organize an exclusive private event before the main auction, something really spectacular. We could invite all the right people, create buzz for both the charity and your company, and establish you as the most philanthropic young billionaire in the city." Natasha pulled out her phone and showed him photos of similar events she had organized. Everything looked elegant and expensive. The budget would be around $60,000. But think of the publicity value. We could get coverage in all the society magazines. I know at least 3 journalists who would love to write a feature about your charitable contributions. Vincent realized that Natasha, like Rebecca, was thinking strategically. but her strategy was focused on social positioning and public image rather than personal development. And this would help the children's foundation? Absolutely, though. Honestly, the networking opportunities alone would be worth the investment. I could introduce you to some very influential people. That evening, Vincent found himself restless. Spending patterns were revealing exactly what he had suspected about Victoria, Rebecca, and Natasha. But Chloe remained a mystery. He decided to take an unusual step and visit her neighborhood. The Lower East Side was a world away from his Manhattan penthouse. The buildings were older, the streets busier with families and working people heading home from their jobs. Vincent felt oddly out of place in his expensive suit. He found Martina's Family Market easily enough. It was a small grocery store with hand-painted signs in both English and Spanish. Through the window, he could see an elderly man behind the counter helping customers. Vincent was about to leave when he spotted Chloe coming out of a building across the street. She was carrying several bags and heading toward the market. Instead of following her, he decided to wait and observe. Chloe entered the store and emerged 20 minutes later with what looked like enough groceries for a large family. But she lived alone in a small apartment. Vincent watched as she crossed the street and entered the same building she had come. From curiosity overtook discretion. Vincent approached the building and saw it was a community center. A sign by the door read, "Evening Meals Program, all families welcome." Through the open doors, he could see into a large room where several families were setting up tables and chairs. Children ran around while adults organized what appeared to be a community dinner. And there was Chloe, unpacking groceries and directing the setup with easy familiarity. Vincent watched as she helped an elderly woman carry a heavy pot, played briefly with a toddler who had approached her, and organized volunteers with the same efficiency she brought to managing his household. "Can I help you?" A young man had approached Vincent. He wore a volunteer name tag that read Miguel. "I'm just watching," Vincent said awkwardly. "First time here?" Chloe mentioned we might get some new volunteers. She's been trying to expand the program. Chloe runs this. Miguel laughed. Runs it, funds half of it, and cooks most of the food. She's been coming here for 2 years, ever since her grandmother passed away. Abuela Martinez used to run the program, and Chloe took over to honor her memory. Vincent felt something shift in his chest. She funds it. As much as she can on her salary. She's always saying she wishes she could do more, but she does plenty. Last month, she used her entire paycheck to fix the kitchen equipment when it broke down. Vincent watched through the window as Chloe ladled soup into bowls, her face bright with genuine joy as she chatted with the families. A little girl hugged her legs, and Chloe picked her up, spinning her around until she giggled. "Does she know you're here?" Miguel asked. Vincent shook his head. "I should go," but he couldn't leave yet. He watched as Chloe organized games for the children after dinner, helped clean up, and personally said goodbye to each family as they left. She stayed until the community center was spotless and locked up for the night. Vincent waited across the street until she emerged. Instead of taking a cab or rideshare, she walked to the subway station. Even with unlimited money at her disposal, she was taking public transportation home. The next morning brought more alerts about Victoria's spending. She had purchased a new wardrobe, jewelry, and booked a weekend spa retreat in the Hamptons. Her social media posts showed her posing with each purchase, always mentioning Vincent's generosity and tagging luxury brands. Rebecca had enrolled in her MBA program and joined 2 professional organizations. She sent Vincent a detailed email outlining her plan and thanking him for investing in her future. Natasha had spent the morning at high-end event venues, putting deposits down for her charity event idea. She had also hired a publicist to begin promoting Vincent's philanthropic image. And Chloe had spent another $53, this time at a medical supply store. "James, I need you to do something discreet for me." "Of course, sir. Find out everything you can about the community center where Chloe volunteers. I want to know about their funding, their needs, everything." James returned that afternoon with a comprehensive report. The evening meals program served over 40 families each week, providing free dinners and food assistance to working families in the neighborhood. They were constantly underfunded and relied heavily on volunteers and donations. The interesting part, sir, is that they've received several anonymous donations over the past 8 months. Always cash. Always exactly the amount needed for their most pressing expenses. Vincent had a suspicion about those anonymous donations. How much would it cost to fund their program properly for a year? According to their budget requests, approximately $25,000 would cover food, utilities, and equipment maintenance. That evening, Vincent made a decision. He called Chloe and asked her to come in early the next morning for a special project. She arrived at 8, looking concerned. "Is everything okay, Mr. Sterling? You sounded serious on the phone. Everything is fine. I wanted to talk to you about the credit card." Chloe's face fell. "Did I do something wrong?" "I was very careful with it. I kept all the receipts. I could pay you back if I spent too much. You spent less than $200 in 3 days." Chloe. "On a card with no limit, I know it seems wasteful to spend money on groceries when you were probably expecting me to buy something nice for myself. But the community center needed supplies for this week's dinners. Mrs. Rodriguez needed her medication, and I thought since you said no limits, ... Vincent held up a hand to stop her. "Chloe, I followed you the other night." Her eyes widened with embarrassment. "You saw the community center?" "Mr. Sterling, I'm sorry. I know I should have asked permission before using your gift for other people. But those families depend on the program, and we were short on funds this week." "How long have you been running that program?" "Since my grandmother passed away 2 years ago. She started it when she immigrated here 40 years ago. She always said that when you have enough to eat, you'll share with those who don't." Vincent felt a strange emotion building in his chest. Here was a woman who had been given unlimited spending power and had used it to feed hungry families and help elderly neighbors afford medication. The anonymous donations to the community center. That's been you, hasn't it? Chloe looked down at her hands. "I don't make much, but I try to help when I can. My grandmother always said that money is just a tool. What matters is what you build with it." Vincent thought about Victoria's shopping sprees, Rebecca's strategic career investments, and Natasha's social climbing event plans. Then he looked at Chloe, who had turned a gift into an opportunity to serve others. "Chloe, what would you do if you had enough money to never worry about anything again?" She thought for a moment. "I'd expand the community center program. Maybe add job training and childcare so parents could attend classes. I'd make sure every kid in the neighborhood had enough to eat and help with their homework. And I'd travel to see my cousins in California. I haven't seen them since my grandmother's funeral because I couldn't afford the trip." Vincent realized that this woman, who had grown up with very little, understood the true value of wealth better than he did. She saw money as a means to help others, not as a way to elevate herself. The experiment was over, and the results were clearer than Vincent had ever imagined possible. Vincent spent the entire night thinking about what he had discovered. By morning, he knew exactly what he needed to do. The experiment had revealed more than just the character of the 4 women. It had shown him the kind of person he wanted to become. James found him in the kitchen at 6 in the morning, making coffee with an unusual smile on his face. "You look different this morning, sir." "Lighter somehow, I feel different." "James, I think I've been looking for love in all the wrong places and in all the wrong ways, and now you've found it?" Vincent paused, thinking about Chloe spinning that little girl around in the community center, about her quiet generosity, about the way she treated everyone with the same genuine kindness. "I think love found me, and I was too blind to see it until now." Vincent asked James to arrange a meeting with all 4 women that afternoon. He wanted to end the experiment properly and honestly. But first, he had something important to do. He drove to the Lower East Side and walked into Martinez Family Market. The elderly man behind the counter looked up with curiosity. "Can I help you find something?" "Actually, I wanted to ask about the community center across the street. I'd like to make a donation." The man's face brightened. "Ah, you know about Chloe's program? She's my granddaughter, you know. She has the biggest heart in the neighborhood." Vincent's eyes widened. "Chloe is your granddaughter?" "Chloe Martinez. Yes. She works for some rich man in Manhattan, but she never forgets where she comes from. Every week she comes here, buys groceries for the families who need help. She thinks I don't know, but I give her discounts. A grandfather's privilege." Vincent felt emotion swell in his chest. Even Chloe's own grandfather didn't know the full extent of her generosity. I'd like to help the community center. What would make the biggest difference? The old man studied Vincent carefully. Who are you, if you don't mind me asking? I'm Vincent Sterling. I'm Chloe's employer. The man's expression changed to one of understanding mixed with protective concern. Ah, the rich man. She talks about you sometimes. Says you work too hard and eat too much takeout food. Vincent laughed despite himself. She worries about everyone, doesn't she? It's her way. Just like her grandmother. Always putting others first. Sometimes too much. That afternoon, Vincent's penthouse was filled with tension as the four women gathered in his living room. Victoria arrived first, dressed as if she were attending a fashion show. She had clearly spent the morning shopping because she carried several new designer bags. Vincent, darling, I hope this is about planning our next adventure together. I have so many ideas for how we could spend time together now that you've seen how well I can handle luxury. Rebecca arrived precisely on time, carrying a folder with what appeared to be a detailed report. Vincent, I've prepared a comprehensive analysis of how I use the card and the long-term benefits of my investments. Natasha swept in wearing an elegant dress and carrying fabric samples. I've been planning the most magnificent charity event. It's going to establish you as the premier philanthropist in New York society. Chloe arrived last, looking nervous and out of place among the other women. She wore a simple blue dress and carried a small envelope. Mr. Sterling, I brought the card back, and I wrote down everything I spent so you can see where the money went. Vincent looked at the four women, representing four completely different approaches to life, wealth, and relationships. He felt a strange sadness for Victoria, Rebecca, and Natasha, who had revealed so much about themselves without realizing it. Ladies, thank you all for coming. I asked you here because I need to be honest about something. The credit cards weren't just gifts. They were a test. Victoria's smile faltered. A test? What kind of test? I wanted to see what each of you would do with unlimited resources. I wanted to understand who you really are when you think no one is watching. Rebecca's business mind immediately understood. You are evaluating our character based on our spending patterns. Exactly. And the results were very revealing. Vincent walked to the window, gathering his thoughts. When he turned back, his expression was serious but kind. Victoria, you spent over $50,000 in 3 days on clothes, jewelry, spa treatments, and social events. Every purchase was designed to enhance your image or create social media content. You turned my gift into a publicity campaign about your own lifestyle. Victoria's face flushed red. There's nothing wrong with enjoying beautiful things. I thought you wanted me to be happy. Natasha, you planned an elaborate charity event that was really about networking and social positioning. Even your generosity was calculated to benefit your reputation and social connections. Natasha lifted her chin defiantly. Strategic philanthropy is still philanthropy. I was trying to help both the charity and your public image, Rebecca. You made smart investments in your career and education. Everything you chose was logical and would benefit you professionally. But you never once considered using the money for pure joy or to help someone else. Rebecca adjusted her glasses, her analytical mind already working. I thought you would appreciate responsible financial decision-making. Vincent turned to Chloe, who was looking at the floor with embarrassment. And Chloe, you spent less than $200? On groceries for families who needed food? On medication for an elderly neighbor? On supplies for a community center that serves dozens of families every week? I'm sorry, Chloe said quietly. I know I should have spent it on myself like you intended. No, Chloe, you spent it exactly right. You spent it like someone who understands that wealth is meaningless unless it's used to make the world better. Victoria stood up abruptly. This is ridiculous, Vincent. You're criticizing us for enjoying the gift you gave us. What's wrong with wanting nice things? Nothing is wrong with wanting nice things, Victoria. But everything you wanted was about creating an image or impressing other people. You never once thought about using that money to help someone else. That's not my responsibility, Victoria shot back. I'm not a charity. No, you're not. And that's exactly the point. Natasha gathered her fabric samples. Vincent, I think you're being unrealistic. In our social circle, appearances matter. Reputation matters. I was trying to help you build both, but I don't want a reputation built on manufactured charity events and publicity strategies. I want a life built on genuine relationships and real purpose. Rebecca was the most thoughtful in her response. I understand what you're saying, Vincent, but not everyone approaches generosity the same way. Some people give money, others give time, others give expertise. You're right, Rebecca. But in 3 days with unlimited resources, none of you thought to give anything to anyone else. Except Chloe. Vincent walked over to Chloe, who was still looking embarrassed. Chloe, will you tell them about the community center? She shook her head. Mr. Sterling, that's not necessary, please. I think they should know. Chloe took a deep breath. My grandmother started a program 40 years ago to feed families in our neighborhood. When she passed away, I took it over. We served dinner 3 times a week to about 40 families. Parents who work multiple jobs, elderly people on fixed incomes, kids who might not get enough to eat otherwise. Victoria rolled her eyes. That's very sweet, but what does that have to do with anything? It has everything to do with everything, Vincent said. Chloe has been quietly funding this program for 2 years, using most of her salary to keep it running. When I gave her unlimited money, her first thought wasn't about herself. It was about how she could help more people. The room fell silent. Rebecca looked thoughtful, Natasha appeared uncomfortable, and Victoria seemed annoyed. Furthermore, Vincent continued, I've discovered that Chloe has been making anonymous donations to cover the center's expenses, sometimes using her entire paycheck to fix equipment or buy supplies. That's financial irresponsibility, Victoria said dismissively. No, Victoria, that's love. That's understanding that we're all connected. And that taking care of each other is what makes life meaningful. Vincent pulled out an envelope and handed it to Chloe. I've made a donation to the community center that will fund it for the next 5 years. Your grandmother's program will continue. You'll be able to expand it to serve more families. Chloe opened the envelope and gasped. Mr. Sterling, this is too much. I can't accept this. It's not for you, Chloe. It's for the families. It's for the community your grandmother loved and that you've been serving with such dedication. Tears filled Chloe's eyes. Thank you. This will help so many people. Victoria gathered her purses. Well, this has been enlightening. Vincent, when you decide you want to date someone from your own social class, someone who understands your world, call me. Natasha stood as well. I hope you find what you're looking for, Vincent. Though I think you may be idealizing poverty and struggle more than is realistic. Rebecca was the last to leave. She paused at the door and looked back at Vincent and Chloe. Vincent, I think I understand what you've learned. I hope you'll both be very happy. After the others left, Vincent and Chloe stood alone in the living room. The silence felt different now, charged with possibility and truth. Mr. Sterling, I need to ask you something. Vincent. Please call me Vincent. Vincent, was any of this real? The job, the kindness, the way you treated me. Or was it all part of some experiment? Vincent felt his heart break a little at the hurt in her voice. Chloe, the job was real. My respect for you was real. My growing feelings for you were real. The experiment was just my clumsy way of confirming what I already suspected. What did you suspect? That you're the most genuine, generous, beautiful person I've ever met. That you make me want to be a better man? That somewhere along the way, I fell completely in love with you. Chloe stared at him. You're in love with me? Completely. Hopelessly. I love the way you hum while you work. I love how you worry about everyone around you. I love that you see wealth as a tool to help others instead of a way to elevate yourself. I love that you've been quietly changing my life for months without even trying. Vincent, I don't know how to be in love with a billionaire. Our worlds are so different. Then let's create a new world together. One where money is used to make life better for everyone. One where love matters more than status. One where two people who care about each other can build something meaningful together. Vincent stepped closer to her. Chloe, I know this is sudden and complicated, but I also know that I've never felt about anyone the way I feel about you. Will you give us a chance?" Chloe looked into his eyes and saw something she had never seen before. Not the lonely billionaire or the demanding boss, but a man who had discovered what really mattered and was brave enough to choose it. "Yes," she said simply. "I'd like that very much." Vincent kissed her then, gently, and with all the love he had been holding back. It was a kiss that promised a future built on genuine affection, shared values, and the understanding that true wealth comes from the relationships we nurture and the love we give. 6 months later, Vincent and Chloe were married in a small ceremony at the community center. The guest list included Chloe's extended family, the volunteers from the meal program, James, and a few of Vincent's closest friends who had proven themselves to be genuine. Victoria, Rebecca, and Natasha were not invited, though Vincent heard through mutual acquaintances that Victoria had moved to Los Angeles to pursue social media influencing full-time. Rebecca had started her own consulting firm and was reportedly very successful. And Natasha had married a hedge fund manager and was planning elaborate charity events for New York's elite. Vincent found he wished them well, but felt no regret about the paths they had chosen or the future he had chosen instead. The Sterling Foundation became one of the most effective charitable organizations in New York, funding community programs, education initiatives, and food security projects throughout the city. Chloe served as its director, bringing the same quiet efficiency and genuine care to philanthropy that she had brought to everything else in her life. Vincent sold his penthouse and bought a brownstone in Chloe's neighborhood. It's close to the community center and the market run by her grandfather. He discovered that happiness wasn't found in expensive views or luxury furnishings, but in coming home to someone who loved him for who he was, rather than what he owned. On their first wedding anniversary, as they sat in their small garden behind the brownstone, Vincent reflected on the experiment that had changed his life. "Do you ever regret it?" Chloe asked, reading his thoughts as she often did. "Giving up the penthouse lifestyle, the social circle, all of that?" Vincent looked at his wife, who was tending to tomato plants she had insisted on growing so they could share fresh vegetables with their elderly neighbors. He thought about the community center that now served over 100 families each week, about the scholarship program they had started for local students, about the way Chloe made every day brighter just by being herself. "Never," he said, pulling her close. "I finally learned the difference between being rich and being wealthy. Rich is having a lot of money. Wealthy is having a life full of love, purpose, and people who matter." Chloe smiled and kissed him. "I love you, Vincent Sterling. I love you too, Chloe Sterling. Thank you for teaching me what really matters." As the sun set over their neighborhood, Vincent realized that his experiment had succeeded beyond his wildest dreams. He had set out to find someone who would love him for who he was rather than what he owned. Instead, he had found someone who helped him become the person he was meant to be all along.